Hello, Pat, and thank you to take the time for our interview, even after the loss and the elimination. My first question will be about the emotion and what message did you tell to your player after this loss?
So I actually didn't have that much time to talk to my players after the loss because we were shipped right here. But what I'm going to tell them is thank you. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying strong. And thank you for wanting to play together in this last tournament of the year. We are likely not to be together, all of us, next year. And we have had a lot of issues of not wanting to play together throughout the year. So ending this year wanting to play together is very nice for me.
So we talk often about the player, but I want to have also your emotion as a coach, but also as a person for the last tournament, maybe the last visits rosters. How do you feel personally?
I feel touched that I felt like we gave it all when we had the least. And I think the circumstances doing Worlds is usually really hard, but I think everyone stepped up in a way that is incredibly meaningful to me. And I appreciate how much they thought to make my job easier, because it was not an easy position being head coach for the first time at such an event, but they made it very enjoyable.
As you said, Mike was not here, so was it a hard job to step it up and to take his shoes?
I think that Mac has done a wonderful job of preparing me for this role, and all of his wisdom that he put into me over the last 2 years made me be able to be successful, made me be able to do my job well, made me able to delegate the tasks that a head coach has really well. So I think that the job was wonderful, and it was wonderful because everyone around me made it wonderful.
So does it mean that around you, the player and maybe the other coaches took also more responsibilities?
I think that in terms of how Yo-Yo approached this Worlds was the best I've ever seen for him, and it gives me so much hope for him moving into next year. If he's with us, if he's on a new team, I believe that he showed that emotionally he has developed so much as a player. My support staff, like the coaching staff in Achu and Seth, has done wonderful. Seth with managing all of the in-game stuff with me, reviewing scrim blocks when I have been feeling overloaded. Achu making sure that he is spending time with me to walk outside and get a bit of distance, because it's so easy to get sucked into everything. And honestly, all of the players, I could give shout outs to all of them, but Healy for stepping up as an emotional leader of the team and really showing the way.
And I think that some player took a huge role during the last game, and Mad Lion made a good showing. So are you proud of it, about the last match against Weibo?
Yeah, I think we showed just about our level versus Weibo Gaming in game one. We also showed a lot of the flaws that are within the team, right? It's very late in the year. We haven't managed to agree on all of the fundamentals together, and that sometimes means that in the crucial moments when you are supposed to rely on your autopilot, that autopilot isn't there. And I think that's what we saw. You saw 5 brilliant players being able to click their buttons together and kill Weibo Gaming over and over, and we've been doing this in scrims versus Asian teams the entire tournament. But when it comes to seeing the game exactly the same way and executing that last bit of the game, whether it be post-team fight, national setup, that's where we've been lacking.
So knowing the special context of Mad Lion, how do we evaluate the performance at Worlds with 1 win for 3 losses?
I think that this has been such a big learning experience for me, and I know we are going to go back to circle jerking the meme of Mad Lions at international tournaments, but for me, my biggest takeaway is I've walked away from this wanting to understand how I can play as a favorite, because one of the things we keep running into is losing to NA. So there's obviously a mental block for Mad Lions somewhere there that we need to come over. Going 1-3, I mean, we only got to play one Asian team, which is a bit of a shame, and we knocked the BDS down to elimination match. So I would say results-wise, obviously not satisfied, not happy with that, but I think the approach we took, I'm happy with.
Among the losses, which one leave you with the most regrets?
Cloud9. Game 1. That game was not an ideal draft for my players, not a cohesive enough plan, and it showed that the draft wasn't comfortable for them in the way that they communicated in that game and the way we played it out or didn't play it out. So my biggest regret is not being more prepared for Game 1 draft, and outside of that, I don't think I have a single regret.
On a more positive note, what was your best moment during the competition?
Best memory so far was during Korean boot camp when approaching our third half day, so I think 10 or 12 days into the boot camp, where usually we would never even consider spending time together after a scrim. All of us went out for beer and we talked about League of Legends as a team, and we showed up the next day on our half day wanting to play together. That was my favorite moment.
But aren't you a little bit sad that this kind of good thing only happened at the end of the year, and maybe that you wish that it could happen earlier?
Yeah, if we had managed to do it better, but I think the circumstances was what made it possible for a lot of our players, because this was the last chance, it was the last hurdle. So we could, when we went to this Worlds, we could choose if we wanted to keep being that same broken team we had been all year long, or we wanted to try. And I think that's what pushed a lot of the players to try harder, to want to work together. And I think that obviously there's some regret that we didn't manage to find that glue earlier, but I think Worlds was the needed glue for this to happen, unfortunately.
So this time, if we compare to MSI, everyone stick together. It was like a better atmosphere than at MSI, where like it was kind of going crazy with some drama and conflicts.
Yeah, everyone stayed together, everyone wanted to play, and one of the big points that we talked very early on as well is how we approached our scrims, right? Because when you go to Worlds and when you go to MSI, you have 2 times a year where you get to play versus Asian teams, and you need to use those scrims to level up. That's where you get to play Faker, that's where you get to play Deft, Showmaker, Knight, Kanavi, and if you're not leveling up when you're going to these international events because you're too burned out or you're too upset with your teammates, it's gonna show. And at MSI, we didn't level up, and it showed.
Of course, I'm from France, so I have a special bond with Niski, and we didn't yet talk about him. So how was his growth during the year, and how do you think about his performance?
I think Niski across the year grew massively as a player. He's like the intensity that he has been bringing to scrim, like for the entirety of the year compared to last year, was crazy. Like last year, we would struggle to have Niski play at like a 90% after scrim game 4, but this year we've had him available for all 6 games on pretty much every block, except yesterday when he was really full on food and he had a little bit of diet issues. But I would say that his growth in terms of how he approached scrims has been massively improved.
I did interview him during the media day, and he was very ambitious, so I guess he is right now very disappointed. But what can you tell him to make him feel better?
So what I'm going to tell Niski to make him feel better is that what he did this year in terms of developing his approach to practice and expanding on his champion pool is exactly what's going to allow him to eventually become good enough at international events to turn that story around, not just for Mad Lions, but also for him, that he can compete at international events, right? And today it started. Today he took the first step towards proving himself as an international mid laner when he took on Xiaohu, and he solo killed him like 3 or 4 times. And if he continues next year with the same ambitions and the same approach to practice, he will do a good job.
And I am also curious about Chasey, because it was the only one who didn't play yet at Worlds, and this time we fight in Korea. So was he stressed?
Chasey is incredibly unstressed. Chasey is such a calm individual that thinks about everything very logically. He can of course get emotional and angry sometimes, but he is the guy that will show up to every scrim. It doesn't matter if it's Zeus, if it's Bin, if it's Adam. He will show up, and he will either win his matchup, or if he loses, he will sit down and he will watch it over and he will win it next time. So I think there's not big nerves on Chasey. He was just excited to prove himself, and like you said, this was his first year. Next year he's gonna solo kill the Shy.
And Pad, you already did a message to your players, but can you make one for the communities? Like, do you want to share like some good vibes or some positive energy?
Yeah. So fans, you can be as disappointed as you want, and you can circle jerk about Mad Lions International. I promise you that I will do my very best to take my learnings from this Worlds, and I promise you that I will have a better showing with Mad Lions next year. Be hard on us as much as you want. Remember to celebrate our players when we are doing good, because otherwise it's really fucking hard to function.